Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day and joining us for this webinar on how to accelerate team growth with GitLab Premium. Throughout today's call, we'll give you overviews on GitLab capabilities and their use cases along with product demos. Before we get started, we'll do a quick round of introductions. On my side, my name is Joe Randazzo. I'm a solutions architect for GitLab based out of Atlanta, Georgia in the States. I've been with GitLab for about 18 months now, and my background is varied between mobile development, full stack, and DevOps. I'll pass it over to Nuber.
Hello everyone, my name is Nupur Sharma and I'm a solution architect for GitLab based out of Netherlands. I have been with GitLab for about 2 years now and my background is with cloud development and DevOps.
Awesome. So for today's webinar, I wanted to start by sharing this book I recently read covering mechanisms on scaling high-performing teams. Nicole Forsgren is the author and lead researcher for DevOps research and assessment at Google. And over the past decade, she researched thousands of enterprises to break down what it takes to become a high-performing development team and discusses her research methodology behind it. The topics range from measuring software performance, architecture, product development, and leadership. And a topic that resonated with me is making work sustainable by minimizing burnout. I think we recall a few times in the past month where we received a notification that had a build break or production was down. So one ingredient to this less deployment pain and day-to-day activities is through lean practices and continuous delivery. So for today's webinar, we'll answer 3 questions. What lean practices can be leveraged in GitLab to minimize deployment pain and achieve faster cycle times? What automated levers can be used in GitLab as my team starts to scale? And lastly, how to plan and deliver through GitLab's integrated portfolio management. And to answer these questions, we'll walk through the following topics. So we'll start here, coordinating approvals before deployment. So we take a look at the diagram at the top, we'll focus on the feature branch. So if we look at the main branch being the bottom and this small change, small incremental change being the feature branch, and we take a look at this orange square here, we're going to be looking at the approval process. To first start, let's look at the first capability here. So approval rules or multiple approval rules is an ability to assign specific individuals or teams on giving you the ability to sign off before something's merged into your main or default branch. This gives you the ability to mark approval rules as required. Common use cases might be you might have a cross-functional team such as your UX team, your QA team, perhaps your security or even senior engineers. And you can mark them even on specific branches. So perhaps you need approval rules on development branch, QA, or your production branch. You could design or assign specific teams on each one of those branches. And this acts as another guardrail for your Git branch workflows. The other capability here is code owners. So this gives you the ability to auto-assign an individual or a team when a file is changed. So take, for example, you have a designated DevOps team that leverages changing Docker files, having that subject matter expertise around that. When a file is changed, you can go ahead and assign them and make sure that they're marking off on the right changes. The other use case here is multiple teams in a monorepo. Perhaps you have assigned backend team, assigned front-end team, and all those changes that are going on. There's specific expertise around that. So when a file or a directory is changed, you can assign the appropriate team and automate that process. And of course, you can go ahead and require the approval before any file is changed when you go from that merge request into your default or your main branch there. So let's take a quick look at the product demo here. So I have a project here called Safety First. I want to drill into the merge request. Now, I have a simple change here. All I'm doing here is adding a new page here, and then I'm updating the Docker file. And for this Docker file, I have a specific code owner that I'll show the change. So if I take a look at my approval rules, I have a UX team assigned, backend engineers, senior engineers. These all require one approval. So ensuring that everybody signs off, that's appropriate for each branch. And then the code owner. So in this case, I have Tim, who would sign off for any file changes that are in the Docker file. In this case, for example, if I made a port change, he might have the expertise to know that I shouldn't change it to specific port changes. Again, this can support teams, or you can establish this on directory levels, perhaps a specific folder for your backend team or your front-end team. Now to set this up for the approval rules, if I go into my general settings, go into my merge request approvals, I can quickly see my established approval rules here. I can go ahead and add approval rules. So if I wanted to say engineers 2, I can tag a specific person. I'll go ahead and tag Nooper there. So I can see that I've established that. I can also change this per branch. So if I had perhaps a production branch and I want to only have senior engineers only approve and help with that merge request into production, you can also assign those to specific branches. For code owners, there is a file that's at the root level called code owners. This will be parsed out within the merge request, so you can assign the file type. You can do file extensions or even directories. These can be specific users, or these can be user groups. If you want to mass ping everybody for their approval, you can do that as well. Now, what are some of the benefits of multiple approval rules and code owners? With multiple approval rules, this gives the team the ability to streamline reviews. Additionally, if your team's aiming for compliance, such as SOC 2, this capability supports the change controls under change management. For the benefits of code owners, this allows a team to automatically scale their expertise across their skills or their function. So looking in the next topic, so deployment safety to production. So if we look back at the top of the diagram here, now we're now shifting over from approvals to actually merging and deploying. So taking that feature branch and putting it into your default branch here. So the first capability to look at here and thinking through deployment safety to production, one being merge trains. This that gives you the ability to queue up merge requests and actually queue them into your target branch. So where this comes into play is maybe you have 20, 50, 100 engineers working on maybe a mono repo. There's a lot of work going on that target branch. And if you have a merge request that goes in and might not get the latest changes of your target, you might have conflicts there. So the merge train queues that up and actually constantly checks against the latest changes of your target branch and ensures that your main branch stays green and allows for multiple teams to asynchronously work on that default branch. The other capability, protected environments. So this is allows you to prevent unauthorized access within your CI job. So if you have a job set up to deploy out to a specific environment, perhaps your dev, QA, your SRE team, or your SR or your production environment, you can isolate those deployments by specific role. So if you only want your senior engineers to push the deployment button, this gives you the ability to use GitLab permissions model to map that out. So a quick look at that. So I got a project here called Choo Choo All Aboard the Merge Train. I have a quick graphic here just to illustrate how this will look. If we take a look at user that creates the MR, if they go ahead and add that to the merge train, it adds it to the queue. If you have another developer put their merge request in, it will queue up both the changes of MR1 and MR2, and then we'll go ahead and merge that in. Now say these are all running in parallel. They're all needing the latest change of the target branch. They'll queue up. If any of them fail, they'll be kicked out of the queue. And any merge requests that start after that, for example, this one, if MR3 fails, it'll actually remove it from the queue and rebuild that. This will help with the pipeline efficiency as well. So if I take a look here, we could assume that these are multiple developers working on this repository. I got a few changes on my JS file and the Docker. What I'll do is I'll start the merge train. So that'll kick off the merge train here. What'll happen here is I'm going to add each of these merge requests in, assuming that we're working in parallel. Now, if we take a look here, we have an annotation that says this has been added to the merge train. You have 3 merge requests waiting to be merged. So it gives you an idea of the queue there. So this will kick off. You can see the pipeline that's associated with it. If you go into the pipelines view under CI/CD, you'll see an annotation that says train here. So this marks it as being part of a train. As these continue, they will be merged into the main branch. And it's just a matter of a quick setup in your CI/CD to enable this. For protected environments, so thinking back on the other capability here. So if you want to prevent unauthorized access, to set that up, if I go into my safety first project, there are 2 approaches here, or 2 steps here. So if I go into my CI/CD, my protected environment, I have the ability to select an environment. If I want to go ahead and select staging or production, I can select those here. When I do have them selected, this gives me the ability to define roles, groups, or users. So perhaps I want to assign the SRE team to specifically push this out on the job. I can go ahead and do that. So to illustrate this, if I want to go look at my pipeline view, we'll look at existing pipeline that's been kicked off. So me, for this person on this project here, I am marked as an owner and a maintainer. So I have the ability to go ahead and merge it. But what happens if I go ahead and impersonate a user? I'm going to go ahead and impersonate Joe Randazzo dev test here. I impersonate them. If I go into this pipeline view, I will not see the play button here. So that says that this user cannot push out to that specific environment. So this is just another mechanism to have that production safety when you deploy out.
Joe, can we create protected environments at the group level instead of doing project by project?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, as of 14.0, we just gave the ability to establish these protected environments at the group level. So rather than configuring it for each project, you can now configure this at the group level. So this will help speed up that configuration. Right now, it is in beta, so it's behind a feature flag, but this will start to mature over time. And we'd certainly love your feedback if you decide to enable this on your self-managed environment with the feature flag. Now, for the other part here is the safety first. When you define that environment, if we're thinking back with the CI pipeline here, just a note here is for this production job, I did have that environment annotation here. This actually equivalates to production. So just a note there when you do assign that in the CI job. So thinking through the benefits here, so merge trains, you will have that merge safety. So giving you peace of mind when you're merging in parallel with other engineers, pipeline efficiency, so not having redundant builds take place. For protected environments, so production safety, so ensuring that your production environments are green and giving you peace of mind on who can deploy out, and leveraging the GitLab's permissions model, having that single permissions role base when you do deploy out. And then a quick feature comparison here between CE Starter and Premium. Most of these all align in the premium side. For approval rules, there is the ability to assign a single approval rule there. When you get to premium, this allows you to have multiple approval rules and requirements around them as well. So taking a quick demo break. So as a solutions architect, we get to meet with hundreds of software teams and understand their goals and challenges. I created a primitive timeline that captures common organizational milestones that we see with customers, which is by no means perfect. So let's walk through a dev team's journey as they grow and achieve various milestones. So taking a look at a software company, they work at finding the product fit, and they start to hire other teams to improve the product quality, such as the UX and the QA team. The organization gets a little bigger. They're maybe at 50 members now, implementing continuous delivery processes, but are running into a few deployment pains. Now comes in compliance requirements. They're working to put controls in place to ensure their environments are sound and lights are on. The organization continues to grow, perhaps to several product lines established at this point, and are now focusing on scaling efficiently, and maybe have hired an enablement team to assist with standardizing processes. So what if we put an arbitrary point here and say that the deployment frequency is low, production errors are common, and the developers are bummed with ongoing issues? At this point, they may have a lot of manual processes in place that are error prone, but what if we were to automate these processes earlier before the team rapidly grew? So let's move back to an earlier time when they just added new departments and now have compliance requirements. So from experience working with customers who had the right culture, establishing processes and controls, and continuous delivery early on were set up for success as they scaled. So establishing some of those lightweight, rich controls that we previously discussed will ensure confidence in your production environments and drive quicker value to your business and your customers. So let me hand it over to Nooper as she'll walk through planning and managing work with GitLab Portfolio Management.
Thanks, Jim. So we saw how we can implement various features to make your process more efficient. while the developers are developing. But before the developers actually start their development work, there are a lot of things which has to be planned and prepare before they can actually get started with the development sprint. So let's see how we can make planning our teams work more efficient. Roadmaps are the Roadmaps are a tool which can be used to view a team's work against a timeline. They enable to see your milestones, start date and due dates, and map your epics within them. They help in identifying dependencies between your work, helping to identify blockers quickly so that you can handle them way before they become a hurdle for your delivery. You can also track an epic progress by weights on the roadmap. For product owner, it helps to regularly communicate where the product is heading so that everyone is on the same page. Epic boards, whereas align teams and organization by communicating the status of the epic continuously. Epic board allows team members to view and modify all their epics in a single place through a multi-column drag and drop UI. So if you are used to use issue boards in GitLab, epic boards look almost similar to issue boards. Epic boards can be seen as Kanban boards applied to the epics, which are a collection of related issues that span across your projects and milestones. Epic boards are good for managing and visualizing ideal epic workflow, such as authorizing workflow states. For example, a epic can be in draft, can be in writing, and finally it can be moved to done. DevOps workflow states such as planned in development and production or any other mutually exclusive state might also be modeled with scoped labels and epic boards. So let's see how it works with GitLab. So here we have a view of roadmap in which we can see all the roadmaps which are present for this particular group over here. And here we can see the milestones which are planned. If you see here for any epic, you can visualize how much work is assigned to this epic and how much of it is completed. You can also see the start date and end date of this epic over here. Also, the visualization of when this epic is about to finish can be seen from here. It also shows you what amount of work or what percentage of work is completed via a percentage sign over here. This percentage is again calculated based upon the weights assigned to an epic. Also here we can see the milestones. So you can also map the milestones along with the epic to see which milestones can be mapped to an epic and when you can expect an epic to be delivered according to a particular milestone. Moving on to epic boards. So here we can see a generic epic board. Here I have placed various stages of my workflow for which my organization can see where my epic is in open, when it's in backlog. Once it is in refinement stage, I can move my epic to the refinement stage and then in progress and done. It gives me a more better view of where my epic lies or what is the current status of my epic.
Nooper, that's interesting. So with that roadmap, so as I'm thinking as maybe a product manager, as I have a lot of epics that are in place here, perhaps I want to drill down to a milestone. Are you able to filter that roadmap down just to have better visibility and to know what epics are aligning with those milestones?
Yes, sure. That's an interesting way of looking at milestones as well. So if you come over here and try to search based upon the milestone, for any milestone you can find out which all epics can be part of that particular milestone.
Awesome, thank you.
Going back with roadmaps, the benefits include transparency, as you can easily see, or the stakeholders can easily see where their epics are progressing. Also, it helps in collaboration. So, if you have multiple epics which are dependent on each other or multiple teams working on a specific epics, they can look and find out when they can expect the work to progress. Similarly, for the epic boards, it increases the predictability as you can, from one view, identify where your epic lies, what stage they are in, and also it increases the efficiency as multiple teams can collaborate using single board. So, with the help of roadmaps and epic boards, product owner can efficiently define initiatives for the team and observe the progresses of the work being done by those teams. So, after planning, let's see how we can improvise on managing the work within the teams. Multiple boards allow more than one issue board for a given project or a group. This is great for large projects with more than one team or where a repository hosts the code for multiple projects. To have multiple workflows, an issue are immediately assigned with the corresponding labels, which gives you more idea of where or which stage the particular workflow lies. It can be also used to hand over tasks to different teams, identify team capacity for a specific milestones or iterations using weight. For burn down and burn up charts, both of them shows the progress of completing a milestone or an iteration. That means a burn down or a burn up chart can be shown as part of a milestone board as well as an iteration. Burn down charts can be used to predict your team's likelihood of completing their work in time available and to visualize the relationship between the amount of work there is associated with the project and how likely that work is to be completed against the project deadlines. So if we go to a group project board, here we are seeing a group board for a particular group or an organization. Here, if I go down, I can see that we can create multiple project boards for a project or group boards. So for example, let's see the capacity board for my team. Here, I have created a board which specifically visualize what's the capacity being utilized for a particular team member. So here I can see Joe has been assigned 2 issues with a total weight of 13, whereas Chester has been assigned 1 issue with a total weight of 1. So in this way, you can visualize how much work is being assigned for a particular team member and try to manage the work accordingly. You can also restrict this view for a particular milestones or for the current iteration as well to get a better view of what the team is working on. Similarly, suppose we go to the development team board. Here, I can see the whole process or the workflow for the development team. So, my workflow for the development team goes like in progress, in review, and then QA ready. So, if I want my issue to be assigned to QA after it's finished by the development team, I can just follow the workflow for the development team. And once this workflow is finished, I can assign it to QA ready. Now the QA team can be immediately so here the QA team can immediately know what work has been assigned to them as they can find out the work which is being finished by the development team on their own board. So instead of handing over the work manually, they can do it by automated process so that as soon as one workflow for a team is finished, it can be transferred to another workflow and the QA workflow can progress from here.
That's interesting, Nooper. One question we get with customers is, as a product manager, they might be working on several boards, and they maybe just want to go ahead and create an issue from a single point. If they're at the group level, are you able to create an issue and designate it to a specific project?
Yes, Joe, we can do that. So, for example, I'm on a development team board and I want to create a new issue for a particular project. I can click on the plus button here, provide the title, and select a project for them. So, instead of going project by project, I can create something very specific to a particular project from the group board. So, if we come to the benefits, Group project boards are a very good way of cross collaboration, as multiple teams who are part of a particular project or a group can collaborate their workflows using multiple group boards. Also, with burn down and burn up charts, you can see what kind of work is remaining, and you can easily predict if you will be able to finish the work assigned to you in the assigned time. This gives a more transparent view for the stakeholders to see if the work they are expecting in the current iteration or a milestone will be finished on time or not. So, with the help of group project boards and burn down, burn up charts, we can create easily cross collaboration within the teams and increase transparency for stakeholders. So, a quick comparison between starter and premium features. The features we just saw, the roadmaps, epic boards, group project boards, burn down, burn up charts, are present in premium. Although a single group board or a single project board is also available in starter. Moving on, other than the features we just discussed today regarding to development and project management, there are some other features which are interested for DevOps team, such as for SSO and SCIM on GitLab. It can be used to allow users to sign in through their SAML identity provider. User synchronization of SAML SSO group is supported through SCIM. SCIM supports adding and removing users from the GitLab automatically. For on-premise, LDAP group sync enables GitLab group members to be automatically updated based on LDAP group members. So when the user signs in for the first time, GitLab triggers a sync for groups the user should be member of. That way, they don't need to wait for the early sync to be granted access to their projects and groups. Another interesting feature is GitLab Geo. GitLab Geo allows you to fetch large repositories, which can take a long amount of time if their teams are located in different locations. GitLab Geo provide local read-only sites for a GitLab instance, which reduces the time it takes to clone and fetch large repository, speeding up development. It is also a very good way to implement disaster recovery. If you want to make sure your data is secure, you can just have a GitLab Geo replica in another region or in another in another region, and this will make sure that if something goes down in your primary region, your secondary region can still help you create another replica and work with them. With multi-project pipeline visualization, you can see how upstream or downstream pipelines are linked together for projects that are linked over to others via trigger as part of a more complex design. Like for microservice architecture, it helps you to visualize the stage of your jobs on a graph so that it's easy to deduce which pipeline is triggering which upstream or downstream pipeline, and if a job fails, where the thing went wrong, and then you can go and debug that accordingly. So those were the features which we think are very interesting for people who are opting from premium. Thank you.